So whenever you're ready.
My name is Amy Newberry. I'm here at McQueen High School in Reno, Nevada. I just taught sophomore on. Do you want me to say that? I just taught.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's perfect.
My class is a sophomore honors English class.
Let's stop.
Okay.
Let me do this so he
You want me to start over?
Yeah, give it a pause and go for it.
Hi, I'm Amy Newberry at McQueen High School in Reno, Nevada. I just taught a sophomore honors English class.
And the first question going into it, we want to understand the decisions you made in planning for this lesson and how it fits into the unit and year. How does this lesson connect to and build on students' prior skills and knowledge, what was taught before the lesson, and what will come after it?
I think that to answer that question, I have to kind of go back. When I start my year, I start with an idea of a theme in mind. And so this year we're focusing on story, what is story, and I really have the kids thinking about what is their story. And so throughout the year we have 4 different units. We have the timeless stories, we have beautiful stories, we have stories of wisdom, and stories of the future. And so this particular Grapes of Wrath lesson is actually in stories of beauty. And the kids prior to this, we've talked a lot about just how Steinbeck creates his world on paper. And this lesson in particular asks them to construct a family narrative emulating Steinbeck's style. And so I have the kids basically, they have to do a family interview with somebody who's preferably older, a grandparent, great-grandparent. And then after they've done that, and after we've examined how Steinbeck has done his writing, I ask them to then craft their family narrative with those pieces that have already been constructed.
Is the text used in this lesson part of a sequence of texts designed to build skills and knowledge? If so, give an example of other texts that form this sequence.
So we're reading the entire book of the Grapes of Wrath. Does that answer? I don't know if that answers the question or not. Can I look?
Sure.
Okay. I can't remember what I wrote. Yes, there's definitely a sequence of things that are happening in this particular class, especially because we're building on the reading of other stories. So we've read other stories that we consider are beautiful. We've also done some nonfiction reads to support the reading of Grapes of Wrath, but they're actually going to be finishing all 600 pages of the Grapes of Wrath. I feel like I'm doing a lame job. I'm just...
It's all edited down, so
Okay.
Don't worry, you're doing good.
Okay.
Talk about the standards targeted in this lesson. What did you do to make the lesson reflect the full intent of that standard?
Okay. I just
Want to pause?
Yeah. Determine the meaning of words and phrases. This particular unit, I'm actually focusing on 4 standards, but the lesson that you just saw is really about one standard where we're focusing on the author's use of particular words and phrases, figurative language that they use to convey their points and ideas. What was the rest of that?
Talk about the standards targeted in this lesson. What did you do to make the lesson reflect the full intent of that standard?
Okay, so I'm going to answer the last part.
Okay.
So in order to reflect them mastering the standard of learning how to determine what an author uses in his writing, I had the kids take an excerpt and really look at it and examine it for certain things that Steinbeck was doing. And then the lesson actually finishes with them emulating his style, his power of diction and how he creates settings, his use of dialogue and how that also characterizes the characters and how he engages the characters together. I think
You're
that's
fine.
it.
Yeah.
It's so not me.
Right.
Sorry.
Trust me, I understand. Okay, so let's move to which of the core action indicators do you think this lesson best exemplifies and why?
Well, I definitely think it's in core action indicator 3 because I'm asking the kids to specifically draw evidence out of the reading and to be able to point to why they feel something is happening in the text. So when a kid says that the mood is somber, they need to be able to go back into the reading and find me examples that were written in there that can support what they were thinking.
We're interested in how the shifts required by the CCSS are being incorporated into your instruction. Discuss how this lesson illustrates the shifts required by the CCSS.
So shift 4 asks the kids to be able to engage in rigorous and rich conversations about a certain text. And I think in designing the graphic organizer that I had for the lesson, my goal was, again, just getting the kids to go back to the text and tell me why they believe or feel or think something is true, and finding that evidence. And what I noticed while I was teaching the lesson is the kids were actually having really elevated and interesting conversations about what Steinbeck was doing on the page. So you know, it's kind of exciting for a teacher when you walk around and you hear your kids talking about things that you think in your head as a teacher, and you're like, oh my gosh, they got it. They totally understood it. And I think that that is, again, just because there's a good graphic organizer in front of them, it's pointed, it's asking them questions, and then it's asking them to find that evidence to support their thinking. It's not just something they're pulling out of the sky.
How did you teach the content of this lesson prior to the CCSS? What is the same and what's different?
I taught the Grapes of Wrath last year, and I didn't love the way I did it. I'll be really honest with you. It was okay. I felt like the kids came away with a good understanding of the text, but I don't know that I was really asking them to go in and find the evidence that would support what they were thinking. In addition, last year they were doing a research project on top of it, and it was just, when I was reflecting back over what had happened last year and looking at my lesson plans, it was far too much work for them, and they weren't able to really, they were doing a lot of stuff but not doing one thing really well. And so my goal this year when I was planning the lesson is, okay, I'm going to dump the research, and I really just want these kids to be able to get into Steinbeck's work and wrestle with it and really see what he's doing, because sometimes Grapes of Wrath can be a tough read for kids and challenging, and sometimes they would maybe classify it as boring. But I think when they can unwrap the different levels of complexity that are happening in there and understand why Steinbeck made certain choices and did things on the page, I think they have these aha moments. And throughout the entire teaching of the Grapes of Wrath, I've seen that, and it's refreshing as a teacher when kids are like, I know why that happened. This, you know, and they point to something in the text, and you're just like, okay, they get it. So.
Student engagement is crucial to the work of the CCSS. We want to understand how you ensured that all students had the opportunity to productively engage in the work of the lesson. First question, how did you support all students in working with grade level text? For example, how did you provide scaffolding for students below grade level so they can read grade level text?
Wow, that's a big question. Hang on. Can't remember what I wrote. You know, even though this is an honors class, there are a lot of kids who I would still consider struggling or reluctant readers. They might be good in other subjects, and so they come into the honors class and they want it for their resume, for their transcript. So we do a lot of, we have actually a very lengthy conversation at the beginning of the novel. Not even just the Grapes of Wrath, every novel that we attack, there's always a conversation of how we can read for depth and meaning. I know who my kids are that have a hard time with the reading, and so I have a very pointed conversation with them prior to about things that they can do while they're reading the text, such as annotating. The big thing that they like to do right now is put Post-it notes into their book where they're kind of just summarizing what they're thinking and feeling and what's going on in the actual text. And then honestly, I let them use them when we have quizzes or we're having conversations. I ask them to get those things out. So the kids that are a little bit lower readers, that's what's happening. The kids that are my average or perhaps above average readers, what's interesting to me is I ask all kinds of questions. We have a lot of discussion about the book in class. And I love that my higher level kids throw things out in conversation that you would expect maybe an adult to come up with. And what I think is happening when that goes on is, you know, everybody is elevated to the same level of thinking because they're sharing what they found, and other kids that maybe perhaps didn't see it are like, oh, they have that, oh, I didn't even see that. And so I think that there's a really rich combination of how to strategically read, how to have conversations that elevate the thinking, and even writing about the text. We do a lot of that as well too.
How do you know students were able to successfully respond to the text-dependent questions with task and precision?
Well, in our conversation during the lesson, it was clear to me that everybody was not only on task, but they were pulling out things that I found in the text that I didn't think that anybody else would get. And specifically, when one kid pointed out the repetition of Pa doing something, and he did it twice, the hat in the beginning and the hat at the end, I just thought that was really interesting thinking. So I know the kids, can I cut that? I don't know if I'm on the right track with that.
I'm gonna have to cut out of here.
Okay,
soon.
yeah.
So let's move on to the next one.
Okay.
I'll explain more to you later. Well,
Yeah.
let me cut this. It's a lot to do in a short time. Okay, so which behaviors from core action 3 did the students best exemplify in this lesson?
Wow, I thought they were having a great conversation. When I was going around and spotting just what was happening at each group, some of the things that they were saying just delighted me as a teacher, and I could tell that they were really wrestling with the text and that they were going back and saying, but look, Pa did this, and they were having, I don't want to say arguments, but definitely rich dialogues and disagreements at the table, but they were proving what they were trying to say by pulling evidence out of the text. And so to me, I really feel like that showed that, that those rich conversations were happening at tables. So I'll be